to the pod, and well. Just a quiet little weekend. College football turned out to be a bad day to be a goalpost. Field stormings from the north, the west, the south, the east, everywhere. Total mayhem. 5 of the top 11 lose. Miami somehow isn't one of them. We almost had 6. I think some maybe, Washington over Michigan, A&M over Mizzou, not necessarily like end the world stunners, but Vandy over Alabama, Arkansas over Tennessee, Minnesota over USC. I don't think anyone saw that coming. Let's just start knocking these down. Not going to be a Fat Bear Week show. Not going to be a show where we talk about great victories in the MAC East. We got the prime stake here to work with. Pat, Vanderbilt, 0-60 against top 5 opponents. Never beaten a number 1. 60. 0-60. Just, never would have thought there it is. They defeat, they come out and not just defeat Alabama, but really control the game to win 40-35. Didn't trail. Did they ever trail? I don't know if they ever trailed. Didn't trail for most of the game, at least. What happened?
I will say to start, it's the apple picking weekends that get you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like this was one we weren't sure, and then oh boy, I've been doing this a long time, covering this stupid sport. I don't recall a Saturday quite like this that ended up at with me at 2:15 a.m. just like gobsmacked at how Miami somehow won at Cal. But in terms of just an all-day festival of incredible, wild, fun, weird, controversial stuff, this had it all. And yes, the biggest stunner by far was Vanderbilt beating Alabama. Vandy is, but in this, it seems like there's always that big upset is always possible. Your team could always have that magic moment. It could have a magic season. It could turn things around and go from the bottom to the top for everyone but Vanderbilt. Never, ever happened for them. 0-60, as you said. And they didn't just beat a top 5 team. They beat a number 1 team. And they didn't just beat a number 1 team. They beat Alabama for the first time in 40 years. And they scored 40 points on Alabama. So for Vanderbilt, it's got to be the best moment they've ever had, unless you really were fired up in the 1920s when they were winning the Southern Conference. And I'm pretty sure that even our veteran listeners weren't around for that. This was just unbelievable. Vandy never has that moment, and they did. And it was great to see, they take down the goalposts, they take them downtown. And then again, they make the strange decision to dump them in the river, the Cumberland River in this case. I don't get that part of it. That part escapes me. I know when I was at Missouri in 1984 and we beat Oklahoma and took down the goalpost, they went to a bar, they went to Harpo's, and they hacksawed off foot-long sections of it for people, so you had a souvenir, as opposed to watching it sink in a river. So I don't get that, but Vandy, congratulations. Clark Lee, congratulations. Diego Pavia, the Albuquerque Tinkler, congratulations, who dropped a fantastic F-bomb on live TV after the game. What a moment. Go Doors.
Yeah. Remarkable. Remarkable. I don't know where do you want them to put the goalposts, Pat? They got to put them somewhere. So
yeah, no, you saw them up and keep your little pieces. Come on.
You got to have
that's too much work. It's too much work. It sounds like a lot of work. In the river.
I don't think good decisions are being made when you've carried a goalpost.
I do love some of the shots of them. They basically had a police escort blocking traffic so they could haul the so they could haul the goalpost down Broadway. It was
Amazing.
It was it truly was amazing scene there, and something that that university's never really experienced. It was incredible. Not to flip the page here and maybe turn a little more attention to Alabama, but that's what I'm going to do because that was just stunning. I mean, if you think about what happened last week with the Georgia game, and that the fact that they were up at one point 28-0 on the number one team in the country to then lose at Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt scored. There's so many like first times or historic notes about this game, and one of the more shocking to me is that Vanderbilt scored 20 or 13 points in the entirety of the Nick Saban era in games against Alabama. I think 4 games against Alabama, and of course they scored 40 the first game against Kalen DeBoer, which is the most they've scored against Alabama since 1906. It's just remarkable. So let's talk really briefly about Alabama's defense, which we saw have lapses certainly in the final, in the second half against Georgia, and then pretty much all of this one. So since Alabama led 28-0 against Georgia, opponents have scored on all but 6 drives, I believe. They've allowed 4 touchdowns against Georgia and 4 against Vanderbilt, and like 3 or 4 field goals in there. And they've allowed a total of 74 points. The back end got exploited, certainly in the fourth quarter against Georgia and in this game, just guys running fairly open. But then the most shocking thing, and Dan mentioned it in his column, and Clark Lee said it after the game, they dominated physically, which is just stunning. And this isn't a 2-10 Vanderbilt team. It's not. It's probably they beat Virginia Tech. They hung right there with Missouri. They're probably like a 6-6 Vanderbilt team, but to go on to dominate physically at the lines was really wild to see.
Outrushed Alabama 166-84. Outgained them 418 to 396. 12 of 18 on third downs, 1-1 on fourth. Some of those third down conversions were guys just driving and pushing, like just effort plays. Stunning. This wasn't 4 turnovers and driving sleet and somehow Vandy pulls off some 13-12 miracle. They just beat them up. They just beat the Tide up. And that to me was more it than anything else. We're going to get to all these other games, but I want to ask this question because when you watched it, you did not see, obviously Alabama's got more talent. Alabama should be better, all that. And there's going to be tremendous pressure now on Kalen DeBoer right off the bat. I mean, there is not 2 weeks from now when they play Tennessee, who also lost, that game is a monster, right? But Clark Lee brought in 51 new players this offseason between recruiting, high school recruiting, and the transfer portal. They are spending money. Diego Pavia is someone that we know, and we spent all last year talking about on this podcast because we found him to be highly entertaining and at times, I mean, he's the full package. If you're just learning the Diego Pavia experience,
content machine.
Yes, I mean the Albuquerque Tinkler. He went into New Mexico's arch rival, New Mexico. He was at New Mexico State. He went to New Mexico's practice facility and urinated on their logo and got caught on video. Like this guy, he don't care. But I still contend that the sport is flatter than ever, and I thought this game kind of showed it. Alabama does not have the depth that they once had, and Vanderbilt has a lot more talent and their own depth, and you pluck a kid and you say, well, it stinks for New Mexico State. It does. He's a great player, but no one's watching him at New Mexico State. right? Now you get a chance to watch him and look what this guy does. He earned his way by playing well. He's from Albuquerque. He didn't get a ton of offers. Works his way up, and now there he is on national TV, the star of the day, legend forever in Nashville. I love it. Like, is all these losses a sign of like, man, anybody can beat? It's not quite anybody can beat anybody, but there's a lot more teams that can beat anybody.
Yeah, yes. When you say flat, you obviously don't mean like unexciting, but flat in terms of the differential between
the playing.
programs.
It's flat.
Level,
flat level.
Yes,
yes,
right. Yeah.
That was not flat. That was thrilling.
Absolutely.
Nothing flat about yesterday.
Thrilling. And as you guys said, I mean, Vanderbilt could have kept scoring. They took a knee at the end. They were driving again. They could not be stopped. And I remember talking to Clarkley in May at Destin, the SEC meetings. He's a very nice guy. And so he's one of, you always want to at least get 5 minutes with him. And he said, yeah, this is our best team. And coaches say that a lot, but he seemed to believe it. And we talked about Pavia because we had been fans on the podcast of what he had done. He said that he brought a different kind of edge and juice to their team. And I think that has been very clear. But you can make a different team year to year. Look at the Indiana Hoosiers with a MAC quarterback and a bunch of other guys from the Sun Belt. It's unbelievable, their roster. I mean, that is James Madison relocated, plus a Ohio University quarterback and a guy like from North Carolina, a guy from Wake Forest here and there. But that's a new team. It can happen. And
Vandy went 0-8 in the SEC last year.
Yeah.
0-8.
Vandy, that's what I was saying. Vandy has never been close.
And then James Franklin got him like credible.
Yeah.
But
they were credible. They were like second or third in the SEC East with James Franklin. They won like 9 games a couple of times, which was great. But they didn't do this. That's for sure. And I did want to say the universality of this sort of thing was great. I made the incredibly bad decision to go to Iowa, Ohio State, to gather some material on Ohio State and see them. But I'm walking out of there after the interviews and all the tailgates, everybody is watching Vanderbilt, Alabama on their screens, and everybody is Vanderbilt fans. And that's everybody rooting for the underdog, but also hating the big dog. The sport has both. It's got the romance of the underdog, but it's got the haterade too. And everybody hates Alabama unless you wear houndstooth because they've been the best program for 15 years. They have put it to everybody. And so the rejoicing there, practical, it helps them for the playoff for this year. But second, let's just see Alabama lose to a bad team. Ended up in the garage right across the street and there's 2 guys and their like 12-year-old sons huddled around an iPad on the back of their pickup watching this thing. Like everybody was transfixed. And I guarantee it was the same thing at tailgates everywhere else in the country and in bars and wherever people watched games. Everybody was a Vanderbilt fan. That's one of the very fun things when shocking upsets like this happen.
Well, when you have a day like Saturday, it does make you think about kind of reasons behind it because it is so historic. I think it had been maybe since 2007 or so since we had that many highly ranked teams lose to unranked opponents. And it could have been really historic had Miami ended up going down. It would have been, I think, only the second time ever so many highly ranked opponents went down to unranked. And I think it's what Dan and certainly all of us at various points have talked about with the portal and what the portal brings is a free agency that spreads out talent. And while, a school like New Mexico State, right, was hurt by losing their quarterback and I think 4 or 5 other players, a school like Vanderbilt has helped tremendously. Say the same about Miami, right? They probably don't win that game without Cam Ward in the portal. And a school like Washington State is significantly hurt losing Cam Ward, but Miami gains and is now undefeated. So in different ways. It spreads out the talent just in general, and I think that's what we saw, and that's what we're seeing. It was a fun day, and I think it's fitting that it happened in the city where in a few days from now, the Big Ten and SEC will meet, for a gathering that many people believe is just another step in the direction of the power leagues, the two power leagues kind of further controlling the sport with decisions they make. And it's funny that it happens there. And they're toting the goalpost down Broadway after maybe arguably the SEC's biggest brand loses to arguably its least valuable brand. Maybe not arguably. Its least valuable brand. Yeah.
Yeah. And they'll discuss they need to do things for some existential threat. The last existential threat was transfer portal and NIL will make the rich richer. And we're not, no, that didn't happen.
No.
Exact opposite, as you saw Saturday. Arkansas 19, Tennessee 14. Let's just move on to this one. We will talk about that meeting on Tuesday for sure. Sam Pittman, man, off the mat.
Boss hog.
They get a TD from Malachi Singleton, 117 left. He's the backup quarterback. Tennessee makes a late push, but they just couldn't get it done. The offense, for the Vols, not very good, not good enough. Defense was probably good enough, but a huge win, a stunning loss for Tennessee that it looked so good. Again, I don't know what to make of this week to week, but it now takes the safety net away from Alabama and Tennessee, and that game in 2 weeks up in Knoxville is going to be just a monster on where these two seasons are going. But this is fifth year for Pittman and at the Hogs. He's 27-27. He's only 13-24 in the SEC. They went 4-8 last year. I think every single person, including maybe Sam Pittman, thought he wasn't going to coach there next year. And we'll see. But they're 4-2, 2-1. It was the biggest win they've had under his tenure. Thoughts either on Arkansas or on Tennessee. Still Arkansas, interesting. LSU, Ole Miss, and Texas all visit still. I don't know if they can do another one of these or not. I don't know quite what to make of it, but thoughts on either team, and we'll try to race through some of these games.
Yeah, phenomenal win for Arkansas. And that was one where from what I could see, I will say shout out to the Pizza Cottage in Grove City, Ohio, for letting me come trundling in with my work bag and serving me a nice little 7-inch pepperoni while I was writing a Vanderbilt column that I didn't expect to write. But Arkansas was taking it to them. Like, they left some points on the field. That was an impressive showing. Tennessee, maybe there had been a little too much hype a little too early. Pardon the pun on hype and hyple. But, I think one generality here, Dan, between that game, Bama Vandy, USC, Minnesota, home underdogs pulling it off, and I don't think you can discount the amount of emotion that's going into these, especially as the playing field levels. And you can't just sleepwalk past an inferior team because they're not as inferior as they used to be, perhaps. And so if you show up and you're not ready, the other team's going to be ready, and Arkansas was sure ready for their moment. That was an excellent victory, and the hire of Bobby Petrino's gotten a lot of attention, but that was a defensive victory as much as anything. That was really good. Yeah,
defensively it was pretty incredible to watch. I think at the first half, Tennessee had 76 total yards. I don't know that any team had played as well against a pretty good schedule, pretty decent schedule as Tennessee had entering this game. I think they had been probably the most dominant. And again, here we're talking again about a transfer quarterback, and I know that this game was won by, like Pat just said, Arkansas's defense. But Taylor Green ended up having 266 yards passing, completed 70% of his passes. Talking about a kid that came from Boise. Obviously, Boise didn't want to lose him, so it hurts Boise, but it's helped. Arkansas, kind of a mid-level type SEC school, to to win these games. So incredible game. Like Dan said, I think many people thought that Sam Pittman was going to be fired last year, and it's pretty obvious of any coach right now this year. He met perhaps entered on the hottest seat with Billy Napier and Dave Aranda at Baylor. Both of those two, probably not having the greatest seasons, but Pittman seems to be on his way to preserving maybe another year as the boss hog.
I feel like I feel like the other part of this is that there's not as much depth on these other teams, and you look late in that game, Arkansas pushes in for that big drive, and Vanderbilt's taking in. They're just moving the ball. It used to be okay, you can hang out for a while, but eventually we've run so many like your offensive line's gassed, your they wear out. Teams just wear out late, and you didn't see that in either of those occasions. And I'll go to the next one. USC is winning 17-10 with about 11 minutes left against Minnesota. It's not going to be some great performance by the Trojans, but they give up 2 straight touchdowns and lose this game to get beat themselves. And Minnesota's the one that's physically more dominant at the end of the game. And that there's no way for me to quantify it. Maybe there's some way to put in the data that would show this, or total snaps of depth. And we started this at 8 a.m. We didn't have time for any of that. Not that I'm going to do it anyway, but sounds like a lot of work.
8 p.m. Monday, Wednesday. We're not doing it.
Yes, the number 2s are playing more snaps, but I don't even know how you do it. I just like late in the game, you're watching Arkansas run the ball in. You're watching Minnesota run the ball in. So let's just go to this Minnesota game again. Who saw this coming? The Gophers were struggling. USC has not been great, but you weren't, you expected them to cruise along, win this thing 27-10 or whatever. They just get beaten late in the fourth quarter.
It's almost like traveling across the country hadn't been very good for the Trojans. I don't know.
Not so far. That interior defensive line isn't helping them right now either.
Eastern time zone, Michigan couldn't stop them at the end. Central time zone, Minneapolis, 2 weeks later, couldn't stop them at the end. They got Penn State coming there, and then they go to Maryland October 19th. We'll see how that goes as well. The Big Ten teams so far doing the long-distance traveling have not fared well at all. It's been a little different story in the ACC. Stanford won at Syracuse. Cal won at Auburn. Miami won at Cal. But I think we're going to see, I will certainly be monitoring cumulative effect of these cross-country trips and what kind of a wear and tear they're having on you. But Minnesota is a physical team, too. As you said, they haven't played well this year. But when you play them, it's going to be a lot of just pounding on each other. They're going to run the ball a ton, and they're going to run it straight at you. And you got to handle that. And USC has never, well, not never, but under Lincoln Riley has not been the most physical of teams. They're more physical than they used to be, but they're still clearly not physical enough.
Patty, I think John Wildner did the crunch the numbers. I think they're 1-8. The teams that Big Ten teams that had to travel more than like 2 time zones are 1-8 so far this season. The only win was of all teams, Indiana at UCLA. It'll be interesting to keep kind of tabs on that. And then somebody, I think from the Action Network, posted that USC has not won a game in the Central or Eastern time zone since 2012. They're 0-10. That's just insane to me. And I started going back. I didn't go all the way back, but it seems to be accurate. It's that's crazy. I mean, that is just crazy. So, traveling can be difficult. These flights can be difficult.
Oh no!
Yeah, I know. Shocking, right? I think Miami, they probably didn't leave till 3:30 Eastern time, and 4:35. They're probably just landing. It's probably 5 hours. They're probably just landing right now. It's 8:30 a.m. in the East. So that's brutal. Back to specifically the USC Minnesota game. I I saw some other stats because people were obviously piling on the $10 million a year coach Lincoln Riley. 22-10 in his first 32 games as coach. I think Clay Helton was 23-9 in his first 32 games as coach.
A lot of pressure on Lincoln Riley right now. 3-2 and losing those 2 games is not gonna. You can lose one of them. You can lose the Michigan game, I guess, but not going to get any easier. All right, we'll be back right after this. More upsets and mayhem and Ashton Jeanty. Back to the SEC. Missouri goes to A&M. I think we all thought it'd be a tough game, interesting game. Didn't expect A&M to dominate. Pat, what's up with Mizzou and what's up with A&M? Are they, lost that opener to Notre Dame, but man, lost since.
Yeah, well, here's how much sense the season is making as Notre Dame goes into College Station. Great win over Texas A&M, then turns around and loses to Northern Illinois. And now Texas A&M looks like a wagon ever since then. So this is if you want to go transitive property, by the way, Georgia State is better than Georgia because Georgia State beat Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt beat Alabama, Alabama beat Georgia. Go Panthers. Yeah, Missouri flopped, absolutely flopped. They got, a couple perhaps bad calls there, big calls that cost them an early touchdown. But it was like they just collapsed after that. Like, oh, it's not fair. We can't keep playing. I mean, what was that? That was a terrible performance. And Texas A&M is looking better and better, and I think they've taken on the Mike Elko sort of bully ball, hard edge team mode, and I'm not sure Missouri was ready for that action. I'm not sure they wanted that. So kudos to A&M. Look like they're going to be absolutely a factor the rest of the way in the SEC. And Missouri, put your big boy pants on. See if you want to keep playing.
Connor Wegman from A&M, a lot of doubts, obviously struggled a lot in that Notre Dame game. Let's just be honest, looked pretty bad in the Notre Dame game. And then got hurt, missed some time, came back, 18-22, 276 yards against Missouri. Just incredibly accurate, lit it up, and was impressive. And then afterward, Mike Elko let everybody know what he thought of their comments about Connor Wegman, using a little bit of F-bomb there in the in the press conference. But how about this? How about who'd have thunk leading the SEC with a 3-0 record right now atop the SEC is Texas A&M, and the only undefeated team left in the SEC, Texas. Wild.
Lone Star State. That some people were talking about that yesterday too. Like this Texas A&M Texas game that we thought was already going to be like, forget it. Intensity, anger, hatred, state, all that. That was when people thought A&M wouldn't be that good.
Right.
They're looking pretty good and they're getting better.
Yeah.
What is that going to be at the end of the year if both teams or they just keep winning? Now, again, predicting that for the season, the way this is going to go and the number of good games is foolish, but it's kind of fun in the moment. Hey, if ever keep winning, good luck with it. Finally, the last top 11 upset, top 11 team to lose. Washington 27, Michigan 17, rematch of the national championship game. Michigan still doesn't have a quarterback, although you want to know how dire it is for Michigan's quarterback situation. Jack Tuttle went 10 for 18 for 98 yards, and I think Michigan is actually like, hey, we got a quarterback now.
Yeah.
Tuttle,
your average seventh-year guy off the recycle heap.
Yeah, it's something. But a couple late turnovers doomed the Wolverines. And another field storming. Great win for Jed Fish and the Huskies. They obviously would have preferred to win the original game. Jed Fish wasn't there, but the Huskies would have liked to have won last January, but they'll take this. Really good performance by UW, and I think it's a nice pop of momentum for Washington. They're 4-2, 2-1 in the league. They're at Iowa, at Indiana, USC, at Penn State, UCLA, and at Oregon to go. Still, who knows what they can make out of this season.
Yeah, very interesting. I thought Michigan could go in and win the game, and they were in position to, as you said, and then Washington's last 3 scoring drives went 45, 32, and 26 yards. So gave them some short fields. They took care of it. Washington does have a quarterback in Will Rogers, and they've got some receivers who can make some plays. Michigan, that offense is still just brutal. I mean, the one run by Donovan Edwards, their longest pass play was 22 yards, then 16 and 15. So you had 4 plays that were of double-digit yards. That is simply not good enough. They are lost offensively, and it's one of those things that I just don't know how you fix it. If you're Washington, yeah, it's funny, Dan, you mentioned national championship rematch, and I was like, oh, yeah, I guess so. But everybody's so different. There's no Harbaugh, there's no DeBoer, there's no Penix, there's no McCarthy. Everything has changed. So good for Washington, protecting home field. Traveling 3 hours west wasn't very good for the Wolverines.
Yeah, when you look at late game gas, right? The interception, lost fumble. I mean, Washington had to drive 32 yards for the go-ahead touchdown, and then 26 yards for the field goal to basically secure it at the end. Just brutal. How about the Big Ten? Here are the list of teams in the Big Ten that have 2 losses right now through 5 or 6 games. Michigan, USC, Iowa, Washington. I don't know that anybody would have necessarily expected that, at least from the first 3. And then, of course, you have undefeateds that we may not have expected, like Indiana. So it's I think there's some teams in both the SEC and the Big Ten that probably have many more losses right now than we'd thought, as everybody kind of beats up on each other already, right? Just 5 or 6 weeks in. And a big surprise, right? When you consolidate the biggest brands into one league, you're going to get more losses for everyone. And we're already seeing it.
Yeah. I still wonder. I get all the money. I get why people did it. I just think a lot of teams are going to regret it. I watched that.
Yeah. What did I go back to Dan, I go back to the quote that Bob Bowlesby told me last year or earlier in the spring, right? The historic winners will be losers in their new conference.
I think it was I watched Friday night, Oregon just, really dominates Michigan State. And you're just like, Michigan State has made some progress, and they're like, okay, not a bad seat. Like, I don't know. What do you need that for? To fly all the way out to Eugene and here's another program that's going to be really very, very hard to overcome. Like, great.
Sure.
And
then
congrats.
Yeah.
But
that's another one. You get back home at 6 a.m. after getting your ass kicked.
Yeah. What did we get out of this?
Good.
I don't know. Couldn't we have just, played one of the other teams that is more our level or whatever? The travel and just the resource. You just one more team that you're like, how do we get above them? Anyway, Big Ten's going to get interesting this week. Ohio State looks fantastic. They have not played the schedule that others have, but that's going to change when they go to Oregon. So Ohio State has been a background character so far in college football. That's going to change. And very interested to see how many one-handed catches Jeremiah Smith has this week.
Could he do a third straight game with a one-handed touchdown catch? It would be a third straight game. I mean, remarkable, absolutely remarkable. We talked a lot about Ryan Williams after the Georgia game, but I mean, I at this point, I don't know that any receiver has been more incredible to watch and had made more great plays than Jeremiah Smith. And Pat, I know you were there. I mean, just insane.
Yeah, incredible. As Will Howard put it, it's stupid. I mean, how talented he is. And you look at him on the field, I was right down there with him. I mean, he is a big specimen. I mean, he is a big guy for a receiver and so fast. And that was the difference in that game. And that's the one thing, Alabama, the playing field certainly may be leveling in some ways. Not at Ohio State. If they spent $20 million as advertised on NIL, they got their money's worth. They have got pros all over the place, and That's going to be a great game against Oregon, but Oregon better be ready for what's coming to them.
Yeah.
You mentioned how Jeremiah, like his build, Pat and I were there after that Georgia-Alabama game, and Ryan Williams came out, and, he's a pretty skinny kid. He's pretty tiny, actually. But when Jeremiah Smith reaches out and extends his arm to get these one-handed catches, looks like a bodybuilder.
Yep.
I mean, his arm looks like a bodybuilder. He's huge. He looks huge just on TV. It's incredible.
The Miami comeback, just incredible. Cam Ward, they come back from 25 points down. It looks like, Cal's going to win. This incredible day at Cal. It starts with a pre-dawn game day, or people lining up to run. You see, they broke down the gates, and the Cal students just rushed to it. And then it's going to end with like a Pac-12 after dark finish. Doesn't work out for Cal, but it was going well. Jaden Ott with 2 touchdowns, and the Calgorithm is hyping him as the Heisman person of the year, or Heisman person trophy. Like,
yes, I mean,
it's just
they are clever.
They're
clever.
It's great. It's fantastic. Heisman person trophy. And then it all falls apart for Cal. But 25-point comeback in the Cam Ward had 277 yards of offense in the fourth quarter.
Unbelievable.
Okay, most of any player in 7 years. That was from ESPN. They should have lost. We've talked a little about it, but they're still rolling along. And then at the same time, it's too many games to get to. Clemson goes into Florida State, does what they need to do. They're rolling along in the ACC. There's some other teams doing pretty well, like Virginia, but Pitt. But those two seem to be kind of on a collision course. Clemson's found its footing, and Miami, they're winning wild ones, but they're winning. And it's like Mario Cristobal kept losing all these games. It's like the return to mean, right? Like it's coming back for him, and it's so funny how a coach can get a Hail Mary call and a 277-yard performance in the fourth quarter, and everyone's happy with Mario, where it's like too little, anything could have gone wrong and everyone's ready to fire him. It's amazing. Like they are walking a tightrope, but they are still up.
Yeah, I'm watching them and thinking they're going to fall off the tightrope at some point here. But you got to give them credit for that comeback. That everything was rolling hard against them, and they somehow turned it around. And that game was so wild. I got home, I don't know, sometime after 1 a.m. and flipped it on. And at no point did I really think Miami was going to win until they were winning. It took those last couple of drives when Cam Ward's just doing everything, and California just looked completely gassed. When Ward had the long run for a touchdown, and like the Cal guys, the few that were in the picture could not come close to keeping up with him. It was like, oh my gosh, if that defense has to go back out one more time, it can't stop them. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. They punt the ball down. Miami gets it on the 12, and on the first play, the one guy you've got to cover for them is Xavier Restrepo. Everyone knows it, and they leave him so wide open. It was like there was nobody between him and the Golden Gate Bridge. And he goes for 77 yards on the first play, and you're like, well, we know where this one's ending. So brutal for Cal. They've been so fun. As you said, Dan, the pre-dawn scene and the humor from the fans, but boy, they've found some ways to lose some games under Justin Wilcox. The good news is they've been in position to win those games. The bad news is they lose a lot of them, and this one has to hurt.
Yeah, Miami's last 4 drives, 12 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. 11 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. 9 plays, 70 yards, touchdowns. 6 plays, 92 yards, touchdown. It's incredible. I know we all follow Spencer Hall, who cracks me up just as much as anybody on social media. And I think when Miami was down 20 by 25 points, he posted Just had a conversation about whether Cal could blow a 20-point lead. And the answer is yes, but Cal football is an idea, and you cannot kill a revolution. Love it. Yes, perfect. No notes.
Fantastic. All right. Give me one team. This is almost like extra, say something nice, but one result Saturday that popped for you. Anything out there that popped for you, just so we can get
I got one.
Go ahead.
And it's obviously going overshadowed because it's probably the lowest resource school in FBS. But Louisiana Monroe is 4-1 in one at James Madison, 21-19 on Saturday under first-year coach Bryant Vincent, who you guys may remember was the interim coach at UAB a couple years ago, and they decided not to promote him as full-time coach and hired Trent Dilfer, which hasn't gone well. So give it up for the Warhawks.
How about that?
4-1.
4-1. Least resource team. Yeah. Bad.
Hey, Dilfer held Tulane to 71. I mean, that was pretty good. I'll give you one, Dan. I got SMU. I'll say this much. Everybody ridiculed the ACC's expansion last year. Why are you bringing in those teams? Well, game day was at Cal. Stanford won their opener at Syracuse. And SMU is good. 5-1, won at Louisville in a really fun, wild, back-and-forth game. That was literally, I'm going to read the scoring to you real quick. SMU scores, Louisville scores. 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 SMU scores. Back and forth.
Tennis match.
Yeah. But they're explosive. They're fun. They got a borderline review overturn. The ACC officiating reviews, I'm not sure any of the calls have been wrong per se. But they've had 3 controversial ones, 2 with Miami and this one on a fumble overturn that allowed SMU to score. I think that was the winning touchdown. So the replay review people, I will say, Louisville fans, the ACC is not out to get you. But impressed by what SMU is putting on the field. Kevin Jennings, who did not start the season as the starting quarterback, Preston Stone did. He had 394 total yards, 113 rushing, and 281 passing. Look out for Pony Express.
I love this whole ACC right now. This is going to be they're setting up for this great chase. I mentioned Miami 6-0, right? Clemson's 3-0 in the league, 4-1. They look like they're pretty good at, right? Let's just, whatever happened against Georgia, hey, maybe they can't beat Georgia, but they can win this league. You'd say SMU, great addition. Cal has brought a tremendous excitement and comedy and entertainment and all of that, and they almost beat Miami. But Pitt, 5-0. Virginia, 2-0 in the league, 4-1. Syracuse goes and wins an unbelievable game, exciting game on Friday night out in Vegas, beat UNLV. They're 4-1. There's like, this is setting up to be really interesting. It's not the teams, particularly Florida State, that maybe you were expecting. NC State, North Carolina, and Florida State are a combined 1-8 in the league. Okay? All these other teams are rolling. It's a different look to a league, but it's going to be really fun, and all those teams are really excited. Also, quick shout-out for Friday Night Football. I know it hurts high schools. And man, we've had some bangers on Friday night. That would get overshadowed, right? Who's watching UNLV Syracuse, honestly, if that's Saturday night and everything else is going on? But then everyone's watching. You see how good these teams are. It's a great, exciting game. It's just fun. It's just a fun game. And we've had a bunch of those on Friday night in a row.
No, and we're going to probably see more of that, more Friday night. Like the Pac-12, we know, is in the middle of obviously rebuilding, and they got to get a new media deal, right? We're going to see some Pac-12, some Boise, Washington State, some San Diego State, Oregon State, Utah State, Fresno. We're going to see some Friday night football coming there.
All right, we'll be back after this. Small sample Heisman. Say something nice. All right, it is small sample Heisman time. We don't like to wait to the end of the year to give the Heisman. We're giving it every week. Somebody does a performance. We'll overreact to that. Listen, Ashton Jeanty should be on this list every single week. So we're just going to Boise State's running back. Totally ridiculous.
We're going to give him the actual Heisman.
He may get the actual
sample.
Heisman.
We'll just get the damn Heisman to him.
I personally am a Travis Hunter accolade, but we're moving into some Barry Sanders type stats here. He passed 1,000 yards on his 90th carry. Okay. 90 carries, 1,000 yards. He has 1,031 yards, 16 touchdowns. He's averaging 10.9 yards a carry. He went for 13 carries, 186 and 3 touchdowns against Utah State and took the second half off. He's not padding stats. He's just is the stat. Someone called him a first down machine. I think we might have
the human first down.
The human first down. That's it.
I like it.
Incredible.
He's averaging,
the way he's bumping off of that's what it looks like. It looks like bumper cars off of tacklers. When he just hits them, he just ricochets off.
Yeah.
It's just wild.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. So we're taking him off the this week. Because if you do this and then Boise State fans rightfully are like, what are you talking about? Well, okay, you're right. But that's not really the spirit of this award. Okay, we're not actually handicapping it. We're giving we've given it to like the guy who runs the first down chain, I think once. Got a chain gang because they screwed it up and helped their team. Anyway, Pat, you got a small sample Heisman?
Yes, I do. And I do want to say about Ashton Jeanty, the pros are likening him to LaDainian Tomlinson. Not a bad guy to be compared to. Diego Pavia would be obvious. We've talked about him, so I'm going somewhere else a little bit here. I'm going with Eli Holstein of Pitt, the stealth undefeated team with a stealth stud quarterback who transferred from Alabama, freshman, and he's been great. He has been fantastic, and he does a lot of great work in the fourth quarter. This game, he's had 2 great comebacks. This game, they were only tied against North Carolina, but he led them 2 scores in the fourth quarter, keep them undefeated. He's in the top 10 nationally in yards per game. He is top 15 in pass efficiency, and he's running the ball well, too. He's got nearly 300 yards of running. So Eli Holstein getting Pittsburgh in an area where, yes, keep an eye on the Panthers in the ACC and playoff races.
I think another ACC quarterback myself, Kyle McCord, former Ohio State quarterback, now at Syracuse. The Orange are 4-1, and Kyle McCord is tearing it up. They won it in Vegas at UNLV to give them their first loss in a wild overtime game. His stats are incredible. They were incredible for that game. He threw over 300 yards again. But for the season, he's already at 1,800 yards passing, 17 TDs already this year, and we're completing about 65% of his passes. Another example of a program, and this one's going down, right? We've talked a lot about quarterback transfers coming from G5 to the lower to mid Power 4, or the lower Power 4 to the major Power 4. This one's coming down from the major Power 4 to the lower Power 4. And we're seeing what a new quarterback, a transfer quarterback can do for a program, because Syracuse certainly would not be 4-1 without Kyle McCord.
McCord he's a thrill to watch, because one play he is nearly getting intercepted, and then the next he is throwing like an Aaron Rodgers fade route dime, and you're like, play to play. Woo! Who knows what's going down?
Probably a thing that vexed Ryan Day.
I think it might have vexed Ryan Day. You're like, what? Like, he throws it right at a linebacker that he doesn't see. Fortunately, it's going like 214 miles an hour, and the guy can't catch it. And then you're like, wow, is that a beautiful pass? Holy cow! All right, my small sample Heisman is DJ McKinney, running back for Sam Houston State. 14 carries, 138 yards, 2 touchdowns on Thursday night as Sam Houston State went to UTEP and won 41-21. Great performance by DJ, but indicative of a great performance by the entire Bearcats, Bearkats. Always love that. Throw the K in there. Spell it.
Yeah.
Spell it a little crazy. The Bearcats. It's Fat Bear Week. Well, this guy is fast. He's fast Bearcat. They are 5-1. They have moved up. They are likely headed to a bowl game for the first time. You only need 6. The way they are playing, they could win Conference USA. So unbelievable by Sam Houston State and their season so far. And DJ McKinney, you win it on behalf of the entire program because it is a team win. A team gets you to 5-1. But great job. All right, we've said plenty of mean things here. Although, it was such a fun weekend, not really as mean as sometimes we are. But let's double down on the nice or not. Pat, can you say something nice?
Oh, yeah. I would love to say something nice about the service academies, Army and Navy, that are still undefeated, because that's been awesome. But I went to Indiana on Thursday. I'm going to say something nice about Indiana. Not for the first time, I think, on this podcast either, but it's incredible. And people, I was like, well, who they played? It's Indiana, man. Indiana doesn't do this. Indiana doesn't go 6-0. They always find people to lose to.
This is why I'm tired of it.
6-0.
Who did Tennessee and Alabama play yesterday? Who did USC play yesterday?
Right.
Enough. You win the game. Win the game.
Yeah.
You
That's
win.
it.
You win. There's no more who'd they play.
No. So they're 6-0. They were the first team to get bowl eligible. They last time they were 6-0 was 1967, which was also the last time they went to the Rose Bowl. Last time they won the Big Ten. They are fun. One of, I think, 3 teams I saw that has not trailed at any point this season. They got a little bit of a scrap from Northwestern. Their defense is kind of rope-a-doping at times, but their offense, man, they go. And it is made up, as I said earlier, of a bunch of dudes from James Madison and a quarterback from Ohio and some linemen who stayed at Indiana. But Kurt Cignetti, the coach, he's a character. He came in talking so much noise that people were like, what the heck? As he put it, he told me this, this is his quote. I know a lot of people were like, who is this f***ing guy? I didn't care. I'm 62, 63 now. I didn't give a f***. He does not. He gives no F's, all right? Gives none.
Obviously, he supplies plenty of F's, though.
Yes. I mean, he has come in talking like Indiana's going to win the Big Ten. Guess what? They're going to have a chance. They're going to have a chance. You look at the schedule upcoming. We've talked about that as well. They could roll into November undefeated. They could roll all the way to Ohio State at 10-0 before they play the Buckeyes. So very fun, very fresh, very unafraid. Go Hoosiers.
Nice.
Gives no F's, but gives plenty F's at the same time.
Dubs.
I got a couple of things to say here. This is a weird one, but did you guys notice poor Reese Davis's voice during the Miami Cal game? Yeah.
Brutal.
Here's to say something nice for Reese Davis, who had quite a long day on Saturday. I mean, he had to wake up. It was 5:00 local time when game day came on, I believe. Or maybe they came on at 6 o'clock. Yeah, local time. But he had to be out there by 5.
Oh, for sure.
Had to be out there by 5 local time.
Yeah.
And yeah. You gotta think you gotta wake up at 3:30 at most, right? Yeah. So and then I don't know what time he went to bed, but that game ended around midnight local time, 11:45, 11:30 local time. He had at least a 22, 23 hour day, probably by the time the head hit the pillow. So give it up. I'll say something nice there about Reese Davis. My other quick say something nice goes back to transitive property that Pat mentioned earlier, where UConn currently rules the world. Let me take you through it.
Oh, all right.
UConn beat Buffalo, who beat Northern Illinois, who beat Notre Dame, who beat Texas A&M, who beat Missouri, who beat Vanderbilt, who beat Alabama.
Yeah, baby. Huskies.
Go Huskies. By the way, the Huskies are 4-2, and they won against Temple in a wild one. It was 4th and 1. It was a goal line stand, 4th and 1 for Temple at the one, and it was a fumble, and UConn returned it actually all the way for a touchdown.
It was a wild play.
There you go.
That was their best moment since the New York Times crowned them the 2020 national champions because they refused to play during the COVID pandemic and kept deaths down. It was, really, that was a remarkable moment. And now this. So half of you New England United, they the way it's going, they don't need UMass as to help out. New England United is, but Missouri's visiting the Amherst Junkyard this week, so it's going to be incredible. All right, you know what? I will say something nice then about the service academies because somebody better. Great line by David Hale, who does a great job at ESPN.com, and he said in 1945, I'm paraphrasing, but Army and Navy started 5-0 also. They also defeated fascism that year. It was that was a good victory. Road victory too.
Yeah.
That was
road
excellent.
victories in Berlin and Tokyo. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent work by Army Navy then. So not the greatest fall of all time for Army and Navy football, but we're close. We're getting there. Okay. They're popping, man. Both are 5-0. Navy 34-7 on Air Force. Army beats Tulsa 49-7. I mean, they're not just winning, they're dominating. And the whole idea that this is crazy. They could both qualify for the AAC title game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Two Army Navy games in 1 year.
Yeah.
They could play then after the playoff field. What? Oh no. Unintended consequences. No one knows what the hell to do with this. I want chaos. I am about agent of chaos, particularly, small situational anarchy, and we got it here. They are just popping. But there's nobody who goes to college I respect more than the young men and women that go to Army, Air Force, and Navy. What they go through. This is the best we got, and it's incredible scenes. If you've been to any service academy game, particularly on their campus, I highly recommend it. And I just love seeing these two having real success in college football. We talk about they've had NIL, they've been paid for play forever. Get paid to go to
yeah.
Right.
Get
finally
paid.
everyone else is getting no.
Yeah.
This is it's tremendous. Good for both of them. And I would love to see, I don't know, what would they do?
Well, I was about to say.
Forget the playoff part, but if they meet at the championship game, because there's so much pomp and circumstance, that is an event. They march them all. Are you just going to line up and be like, "Oh, we'll see you in 2 weeks too"? It's just crazy.
My advocacy is that you postpone the AAC championship game to the real Army Navy game, and that serves as both.
That serves it. Yeah, that could be a problem for the playoff.
Yeah, well, you can wait and just slot the winner in, brother. But that won't happen because, and I get it, the AAC has a TV contract to put on a game in a high visibility spot, and they'd like to sell tickets to it and all those sorts of things. But if any game should supersede a conference championship game, Army versus Navy on the second weekend of December would be it. But I'm rooting like hell for them both to just keep rolling. It's just be fantastic.
Yeah. They better let them in that playoff too. I'm telling you. You watch college football. We all watch. The political ads are out of control, and it's and forget president. That's already. But the local ones, you never even heard of the person, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, this person wants to poison my drinking water? What? So and so is in favor of mass shootings. Really? Okay. You could get all of those crazy ads. They would all agree on one thing: winner of Army Navy goes to the playoff. If they're both undefeated, forget it. You could get the one thing that it would the ultimate bot. No one's going to stand there and be like, well, strength of schedule. I really think a 4-loss SEC team. Back down, committee. Back down.
That's the thing. What if you get Boise State keeps rolling, Ashton Jeanty's run for 2,000 some odd yards. They win the Mountain West.
Sucks.
Well, what? Who says we have to have the fifth team from the SEC in there?
Yeah, exactly. Sorry.
Put in Boise and the undefeated Service Academy team. We're already in Vanderbilt scenario.
What if this happens? What if you have one Army or Navy finish undefeated and you have Boise is 12-1 or so, with their only loss being Oregon, and say Oregon ends up winning the Big Ten, and then say in the Big 12 or ACC, but probably would happen in the Big 12, is they beat each other up, and the Big 12 champion is like 9-4
right,
or even 10-3, and all of a sudden, would you dare leave out a power conference champion for a second Group of 5 champion? It could happen. I mean, people think that the AQs are assigned to conferences. They are not, right? It's the highest ranked five champions.
I mean, certainly if Boise had gone undefeated, but they lost. They lost on two special team.
Oregon.
Two special team plays. Like put them at 4. I don't know. We will see. I'm just saying.
Well,
God help you if you sit there and say we're gonna screw over Navy. Like,
it's
careful.
And then just to let our listeners know about, we talked about it before, but how like Army Navy would work is after the Army Navy or after the AAC championship game, if they meet there, the winner, if they are the highest ranked Group of 5 champion, will be put into the playoff, no matter the Army Navy actual game. It's like that game really won't impact or won't matter. That's the rule that they created back in April. So it would be a bizarre Army Navy game because the very next week
they'd have to play again.
They had to play a first round game at the number 5 seed, probably, or number 6 seed, something like that.
Here's the thing: if they don't meet in the AAC, I don't care if Army or Navy gets in the playoff. Beating the other one in that game is more important than the playoff game.
More important.
They'll be like, sure. Like, we're not like resting anybody here. Yeah. Like, we're going to beat.
But how cool would it be for an Army or Navy for an academy to be in the college football playoff and go on the road?
Talk about the rooting for underdog. Like, like when it's like St. Peter's versus Kentucky basketball, and it's like literally unless you got CATS on your shirt. Everyone's rooting. Like, this would be even more. People would be like, this is incredible. Go. Yeah. Well, good luck. We'll see if it happens, but we can, this is an overreaction.
We can dream, baby.
Crazy game. We didn't even get to half the stuff because we couldn't, but we'll be back Tuesday. Don't worry. Long season to talk about stuff. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing us on social media. Thank you for telling your friends about us. We will talk to you later.